Good morning. Welcome to our show today with Chad Atkinson, Cale Pearson, B2B Transportation here. Hey, we're really looking forward to this today. And Chad and I wanted to jump on here and just, we got our baby broker series, but highlight, who B2B transportation is. We have been in business since 2004, so 20 plus years now. It's crazy to think. And we've had agents since the beginning. And, there's this big push in the industry, come join our agent program. You see it a lot out there. But we just wanted to highlight, we've been doing this a long time, but also why are we different? And what are the things that we offer as an organization? And how do we work with you versus, just putting arbitrary barriers? With that 20 years, one MC number the whole time. If you've been in this business more than a minute, you understand why that's important, because especially in today's fraudulent environment. So one MC number, 20 plus years. So Chad, how are we doing today?
Yeah, doing great. It's, almost Turkey Day. So I'm looking forward to spending some time with the family and having fun with them and, just eating some turkey. I always like the holidays this time of year.
Yeah. So most important thing on your turkey, how are you cooking it?
Well, I have done everything with the turkey except for the whole deep frying of a turkey, which I'm still not going to do.
Yeah.
But my wife, she does all the dry rub, and we put that on yesterday, and it's supposed to just sit in the fridge for 3 days, I guess, because that's the optimal time frame. I don't know. I'm not that good at that part, but we're going to do the dry rub and then just a typical bake. But it's got a lot of citrus in there, and one of the things in there that's very interesting that I have never seen before in my life is called a Buddha's hand. It looks kind of like maybe a dead chicken's,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I've
It's
heard
a
that.
really, really odd looking fruit or citrus, I guess. So
Yeah,
that's inside the turkey. So that'll be unique.
awesome. Yeah, I always Traeger mine, but we're actually going to brine it first this year. So looking forward to that. And a lot of people say, oh, it dries it out. It's like, I've never had a dry turkey. I don't overcook it. I mean, it's just paying attention to it. So obviously, that's not why we're here to talk about recipes, but hey, it is Turkey Day, and for me, it's one of my favorite holidays. But just kind of wanted to recap what we see in the market. Talk a little bit about our experiences this year. Specifically, Chad came on in April, and I think we've added on, 23 agents this year, 11 since August, and a lot of those agents, we're seeing, they just need something better. They need somebody who's going to work with them. So we'll get into some of that. Somebody that's not going to put arbitrary barriers, somebody that doesn't have policies that maybe make no sense, and it's just the way they've always done it. So it's really important if you're out there and you're looking for an agency is that, how do they treat your customers? How do you even explore that? And one of the things that we do is, let's say you're an agent and you have a book of business, you're going to protect that book, right? Chad, you get that all the time. Well, I don't want to share my customers.
Yeah.
So maybe get into that a little bit. How do we protect, if you're an agent and you're coming to us, how do we protect you?
Yeah. So everybody's, our strategy and our thinking on customers is you as the agent, you have the relationship. It's your customer. It's someone you've worked with. You've developed that over years and years of discussions, of service and support. And you have the trust. How you execute the business on a day to day, which platform you use or which agency you go through, that's not what ties that customer to you and keeps that business. It's what you've been able to do, the decisions you've made, and the things that you've done over the years. And anybody in this business knows that when you have a customer that's you've had for a long time, there's a lot of trust there. And you know who their kids are. If they went to the baseball game or they, maybe they just graduated from high school. You have those relationships. A company, companies don't have relationships. People do. So in our space, when you come to B2B, you are going to be the front person with that customer. You're going to make the decisions on what you're going to charge them. You're going to make the decisions on which carriers you believe are the best. I mean, obviously, we're going to do the vetting. We're going to give you the information to make sure we're using safe carriers and authorized, authority and so forth. We give you the tools to do all that. But, it's your relationships, and you have relationships on both the shipper and the carrier side. And those are really, really critical to being successful. And just being able to support your customer. Every customer I know and every agent I know, and I've been doing this for 30 plus years, so I know a lot of different agents and a lot of different customers. It's amazing. We all do the same thing, but so many customers have little, oh, you got to do it this way. You got to do it that way. You have to maybe have a little bit different insurance cert. Maybe you need to have a little bit different way of handling the freight. Maybe you can't bring your dog into the pickup location. I mean, all those things everybody knows that you can or can't do. Those are the things that make you different. And we give you the ability to do those things, but at the same time, not be delayed in some of the processes for setting up the carrier and or setting up a new customer even. Maybe you've been talking to a new customer for, 6 months, and all of a sudden they say, hey, can you move this load today? But you don't have a credit app. You don't have them set up. You don't have, a credit line established and so forth. How do you get that person to the door right away? That's what I think B2B excels in is really helping you make those quick decisions and those get those customers through the door, get those carriers onboarded.
Yeah. So let me back up a little bit on that. So let's say we have a new agent comes to you and they're like, hey, I have a list of 10 customers. How do I know that they're available? But I don't want to just give you that information because they're my customers and maybe they've been burned. So we sign an NDA and, we promise that we're not going to go after those customers. That's not what we're here for. We're here to support you. So we get that customer list. One is to make sure they're available, because if they're not available, you're not going to want to come to us and give up that customer. So the first thing is, are they available? The second thing is, are they creditworthy? Because, we find that sometimes maybe they're not creditworthy, and maybe that's why your existing company won't give you credit. But we want to find that out. We're going to run their credit reports. You're going to be a great advocate for that. If you're already doing business, you're going to know, how are they paying? And so it really helps us, before you even agree to come, are they available? Can we give them the credit you need in order to do your business? And sometimes we're able to give them more credit than that you currently have, that is actually holding you back from building that book of business, which is critical as an agent. You need credit, right?
Yeah. And also on the credit, a lot of companies I know out there in this space, you'll get like a yes or no answer. You'll get approved or not approved. Mm-hmm. But you really won't know what the real situation is with the credit. And that's one of the things at B2B we do a really nice job with, is we give you the information that we know, so you really understand that customer's credit situation. Because everybody in this business understands there is no, good and bad. It's somewhere in between. It's all gray. There's lots of different scenarios that can come up. A customer can look good today, and in a month from now, they can go to bad. And, you have to look at the reasons why, what caused that. And when we see stuff, we're going to give you the information that we see, so that you understand why we make a decision on credit, and why we maybe need to be a little bit careful with someone, because obviously if we don't get paid, nobody's happy. It's that's just handing out money through the door.
Yeah, it's never good for business. Just the title of this, Boss Broker Seeking the Right Fit, Why Culture Matters. And some people are probably thinking, okay, I'm not an employee. I don't care about the culture of the company. Well, I'm here to tell you, you should, because in a good culture, the people that are supporting you as an agent are going to be easier to work with. They're going to probably work harder for you, because they're going to, they're happy, they enjoy their job, and they're going to find solutions. Because, if you have a company that, has a horrible culture, but you're working with them, are they really going to help you go that extra mile to vet that carrier out? or, maybe you need something after hours. Are they going to respond? First off, are they even going to respond? And secondly, are they going to be willing to help you? And, I can tell you that's why the culture matters, because if you have a great culture, it doesn't feel like work. We are working, but it's like, hey, I'm here to help each other, support, and, just really help get those customers across the finish line. Nobody's perfect. I'm sure there's times that we've had to say no, or I know there is, but it's, you mentioned it earlier, Chad, is like, we share the reasons why, and just because maybe we don't give them credit, maybe their credit is horrible. Hey, we can prepay, we can do credit card, we can do ACH, we can do wire transfer, we can do all these things. If they need to move that freight bad enough and they have the funds to do it, there's a way to get it done.
Yeah.
So that's why culture matters in a company, because you want people that when they call you, they're in a mindset of how can I help you, versus like, oh my gosh, I got to do my job again. We've all seen that, right? Where you work with somebody at an outside company and you're just like, oh, I wish I had another alternative, but I don't.
Yeah. And I had to make the decision to come to B2B. And why did I come to B2B? I could have gone all different places. I chose to go to B2B because of the culture. The culture of B2B reminded me of when we were a lot smaller company in my previous company, and we actually had a bunch of people who really cared and really wanted to get a solution for somebody. And I can't emphasize enough how important that caring about creating a solution is way more important than following a policy or procedure that's been set in stone, that just you follow this procedure and I'm sorry, I wish I could help you, but the procedure says XYZ. And, not to say we don't have, our own policies and procedures, and we do like to do things in a standard way, but at the same time, we're looking to create a solution that works for you. And in this business, it's always gray. There's always, how do you get this done? And it's never, just, hey, this is exactly the same as the last time we did this. There's just so many variables. And when I went around and met all the people, when I was deciding whether or not to come here, I don't know how many people said, I treat this as if it's my own business. And that is a big difference. And so that culture of owning a solution, getting a process over the line so that a customer can get their freight moved and we can have some more business, that really is critical.
Yeah, no, that's great points. Yeah, it's that ownership, and I see it across the board. A lot of our staff have been here, 10, 15, almost 20 years, from the beginning. And they're going to retire from here, and they're going to, I always joke that, people can't retire because I don't want them to lose them, but ultimately they will retire, and we'll have people just as passionate, maybe not with the same amount of experience, but they're going to have great experience, and they're just going to pick up right where that person left off. So, I put the question into Tiffany too to see, but what's like the most common question you get when you first talk to an agent, Chad?
I think one of the top questions I get is, how many agents do you have? I get this from a lot of people. Do you have a list of customers that I can call? And the answer to that is no. We do not have a list of customers for you to call. We expect you, as the boss broker, to have your contacts and your relationships with your customers. Because again, I could give you a list of customers. That I don't know what that really does for you, other than maybe save you a little bit of Google search time, or of maybe a little bit of money going to some of these sites to hand out lists of thousands of customers that say all these people do shipping. That's not the holy grail. That's not where the rubber hits the road in our business. It's the actual physical contact with that customer and the trust that you develop. So, the listing of the customers is I think that's kind of it shows me that the person I'm talking to is not a boss broker.
Yeah.
They are someone who thinks they want to be a broker and thinks they can get into this space and really know how to do it. But anybody who's on this call who's a boss broker knows that it's a lot more complicated than you think it is when you first get started.
Yeah. So Tiffany commented that how many agents, which you already hit on, and then how is the back office support? And we had an agent years ago where they were chasing more split, and they went and they laughed and they quickly came back because the split was only a few points, but what the lack of service was costing them thousands of dollars a month, because even though they were getting the more percentage points. So you got to be careful if it's a high percentage, or it feels too good to be true. It probably is too good to be true. And I can tell you that our back office support is amazing. We have our agent support group email. We have multiple people on that, myself included, Chad included. So we're seeing if there's things that are happening that need attention. Unfortunately, sometimes there are, vendor issues that we don't control, but we are responding to them, say, we're working on it. We have a help ticket. Here's a way to work around those kind of things. So it's not just ghosted, even if it's maybe not fixed right away. But I would say most of the time, here's an answer, whether it's a credit, a carrier, those sorts of things. See, Tiffany added, are we perfect? Nobody is. We're human, right? But agents come first. If agents aren't successful, then we aren't successful. And I would agree with that. It's like we're doing everything we can. The moment we see an email come across or get a phone call, whether it's, day one of an agent or, 20 years, that service is going to be there. So, so if you've ever been in this business more than a couple of days and you've lost load or a customer because you couldn't get a carrier approved or you couldn't get credit approved, we understand those frustrations. I always talk about, I look at this business as I'm the one moving the freight still, because I started on the shipper side, spent about 1.5 years there, and then worked at an asset-based company for almost 13 years, and I started out in dispatch. So I have had those same frustrations, like where I started and I couldn't get credit. And I'm like, listen, I remember I signed up Owens Corning in 2007 or whatever it was. I don't remember the year, long time ago. Right. And the controller was giving me a hard time. I'm like, they're publicly traded. Go look at their information. They're huge, and so sometimes people have they're afraid that the repercussions are going to come back to them. And so I'd say that's one of the things that we really work at well here at B2B is I'm not going to come back on somebody for a policy that we have in place. We're just trying to find a way to yes. And it's not a scare tactic of a CYA, you got to protect yourself, from the big boss coming down on you. That's not the way it is. It's like, hey, we made a mistake. We learned from it. That's really, it's just removing obstacles is what I always say that my job is. It's like, let's just get to business. Let's just figure a way to yes. So,
yeah, I would add to that I see a lot of collaboration when there is a question that's a little bit out of the normal, or we're trying to push an envelope or something. There's a lot of collaboration, and at B2B, when that collaboration is it's had by some of the people with the most number of years experience that there is in our company and in the industry even. So you're not having a discussion with somebody who just walked through the door and we told them how to push some buttons on an application to approve a customer or a carrier.
Right.
You're talking to somebody who's actually moved freight and understands the process. So that's massive. That is such a big difference, because you're not explaining the small details. You're actually talking toward a solution to the situation. So that's really, really important.
Yeah. So I want to hit on some things that we chatted about before that we changed. What does it take to be a boss broker? You have to have a great work ethic. You have to be self-motivated within that, because as an agent, you are your own boss. Like this week, for example, right? It's really easy. It's like, I'm just going to cash it in and just take the week off. And that's fine if you have coverage, or that's fine if that's the decision you make as an agent. But, I find that this week, sometimes you can make, some really great relationships with customers because you're in a position to help them. So great work ethic, obviously the experience of solving these complex problems, because let's be real, not everybody in this industry has 20 years experience, and so you might be working with somebody that is new in their role, and so you have to have the patience, and you have to, maybe they're a long-time customer but they hired somebody new, and they're trying to ask you to do something that isn't going to work, and so you've got to explain to them in a professional manner, like, hey, I understand what you're trying to do, but have you considered this? Because if we do it that way, here's the issues, here's the safety concerns. Do we want that product sitting on a truck over 5 days weekend or over a 5-day holiday? If it's prone to get moisture issues, or, if it's a flatbed load and you tarp it, it's like, it gets there and it's going to have rust, or it's going to be wet and mildewy, so just educating, and that experience that comes with it. Obviously connections within the industry, do you have your carrier connections? Do you know how to get things done? Sometimes it's not even carrier connection. Sometimes it's like, hey, I need a third-party warehouse, or, there was an issue with one of my carriers, not on one of my loads, but I can help them, connect them with, a roadside service or something. There's just so many different things.
About the connections, Cal, one of the things I see that's common amongst a lot of really, really good boss brokers is the fact that they have connections personally to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And yep. They're just the type of people that often know a whole bunch of people, and often the ones that are really successful have somehow run across a shipper who has a relationship with maybe one of their friends that they had developed a relationship with, and got introduced, face to face. Maybe there was a turkey dinner, maybe there was a ball game or something that they met at. But really, those people who are very open and are talking to a lot of people, or always connecting with a whole bunch of people, are the ones who run across more customers. Mm-hmm. And there's no getting around that personal relationship before you get business.
Right.
So many people try to get business before they have the relationship, and it just doesn't work that way. You have to have that relationship first. And often you may not say anything at all about transportation for weeks or months, even years with certain people. And then after you build that relationship, that discussion comes a lot easier. So, I mean, a perfect example, my brother and I, obviously have known each other since birth. And just last week, he's like, so Chad, so you can actually help me move some freight from, here to here. And I'm like, I don't know how many times I've told him what I do, but it's like, I think in my career, I've done a lot of different aspects of transportation, and I haven't necessarily been the guy behind the seat, executing freight. So I haven't really talked about that with him as too much. So, but yeah, I just aligned him with one of our agents that I just signed up, and they're going to be doing some business. So I probably could have done that years ago.
Yeah.
And I know I had some conversations with him, but it just didn't click. So that whole connection thing, always be making connections.
Yeah.
You go on a trip, you sit at the coffee stand, or you sit at the bar and have lunch. Don't go sit at a booth all by yourself. Go up to the bar and chat with the person next to you, find out what they're about, and then invariably they'll say, so what do you do? And it's just, the more people you run across and connect with, the better opportunity you're going to have to build more business.
Yep. So connection. Next one was flexible. Being able to solve problems in different ways. That's the great thing about this industry is, there's not just one way to get something done. It's like going back to the connections, going back to the experience that you have, and drawing on that. and figure out, hey, I did this, project for another client. I think we could do it this way, or we just tweak it a little bit. I've had instances where in the past where I've done pop-up yards for clients, and rented forklifts and manned it, with temporary labor. There's all kinds of things that you can do in this business. It's not just picking up the load and delivering the load. It's what services are you providing to take that off the customer that makes it so much easier for them. And that's our mindset, with our support team, is like, how can we help you, and how can we, share those experiences with you? So,
Yeah, I think on that, Kel, the analogy I kind of use a lot of times in transportation is that you've got a puzzle, but you don't have to picture of what the puzzle looks like. You got a bunch of pieces a lot of times, and the experienced person, the one who has seen a puzzle before, knows what it's going to take to put it together. Yeah. And the boss broker is the type of person who can take that puzzle and all the pieces and parts and sell a solution to their customer, where a lot of other people are asking what the customer wants them to do for them, as opposed to selling a solution to that customer. And I think that's a big difference when you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, that's one of the things, whether you're brand new to this industry or been doing it for, your whole career. I always tell people, it's like, you never say no to a client. It's just, how are you going to do it, and what's it cost? And then, you let them make the decision. Doesn't mean you're going to gouge them, but let's say it's something really unique, or let's say somebody calls us, at 3:30 today and says, I need 10 shipments shipped tomorrow and delivered Friday. Well, that price is going to be different than it would be on a normal Wednesday to Friday, because you have a holiday in there. And so you could just be like, no, I can't do it. Or you can say, you know what, give me a few minutes. Let me check it out. Let me check on availability and see what it costs, because, it's probably going to be more expensive because of the holiday. And so it's always offering a solution versus saying no. I think that in this business has won me so many clients over the years, because it's like, you figure out how to say yes. And if you can do that, if they say no, that's fine. But they know if they're in a pinch, they're going to come back to you.
Yeah. And I think that on top of that, when you say, here's the solution and this is what it costs, a boss broker is selling their service and their support and their ability to get the job done. They're not selling price.
Yeah, no, it's like, hey, it's just part of it. It's like, this is what it's going to cost. You obviously want to be price sensitive when appropriate, but let's say it's a huge thing, and what if they don't get those shipments out and it costs them their biggest customer? What's the value of that? And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I see in this industry, is people are afraid. If I go tell somebody, listen, it's going to cost you $100,000 to do that, that's not coming out of my pocket. And that's where sometimes the mindset of people in business, it's like, that's a lot of money. Well, it is, but in a business perspective versus a personal setting, it's way different, right? It'd be like $1,000 to me versus $100,000 to a business, so it's important to understand the size and the scope of what you're doing versus like, oh, I don't want to propose that because it's too expensive.
Yeah. And the boss broker also knows the details and the in and outs of what that customer, what their product is, what types of service and support they need. They know everything about that customer, even more so than maybe the customer does themselves about their shipping. And they know, the locations, they know what types of issues and what times of year you're going to have capacity issues and so forth. So you've done your research and really understand all the ins and outs of that customer, even more so than they do on the transportation side. Yeah. All their parts, their part numbers and their products, and how big they are and how wide they are and how much they weigh and how they need to be handled. If you're trying to talk to a customer and you haven't done your research and learned those things, it's going to be a lot tougher sell than if you can come in with that knowledge.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's where
Um,
go back to that list of customers. It's like, that's, pick some customers that you want to target, you want to prospect, learn as much as you can about them, and then talk to those customers. Uh, don't go down the list and go the opposite direction. Try to find a customer and then try to learn what they do.
yeah. Yep. The last thing we had on this list was self-confident, because this can be a frustrating business. It can be lonely as an agent, but that cuts both ways. You have a lot of autonomy with that, and so you have to be in a position where you have the confidence to put yourself out there with customers, to continue to follow up. I share the example all the time. It took me, I forget what I said now, but I think it was 8 years or something to get USG as a customer back in my asset days. And, their response was like, "Where have you guys been this whole time?" And I just laughed, because I'm like, "I've been right here. I've been in your bid, for the last 5 years. So, and I'm emailing you every 2 to 3 months, and dropping phone calls, and just staying consistent with it, because if you're a boss broker and you know that customer is a good fit for you and you're a good fit for them, the time's going to pass anyway. So why not continue to stay? Doesn't mean you call them every day and hound them and be annoying, but you're showing ways that you could provide value through that. And I think in today's age, with all the technology we have, that's an easier sell. Like, you could do a quick video of a job site you're at and say, "Hey, we're at this job site, Mr. Customer." And it made me think of you, because, here's the challenges we saw. Have you ever had these sorts of challenges with the vendors that you work with? And just leave it at that. You might not get a response, but when they have that challenge, guess who's going to pop into their mind? You, because you sent the video. So, anything else on what you think a boss broker needs to have? We listed work ethic, experience, connections, flexibility, and being self-confident. Anything else jumps to your mind?
With the work ethic, I didn't comment on that one. I think it is just, it's so common when I look at high performing brokers that, their work ethic is just phenomenal.
Yeah, unparalleled.
But they also, the ones that are really successful, and they're successful over decades, are the ones that have figured out how to be work hard, but also how to have that work-life balance and spend the time with their family, have the ability to see their kids, events, and just live, a life that is enjoyable for them and their family. And sure, they work hard. They work really hard, and their phones are always available, or the ones that are super successful have been able to develop teams, and they replace themselves.
Yeah.
I say this all the time: always, always, always replace yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever you do well, find somebody that you can train how to do that in the same manner, and then you can go on and do other things that give you mobility and grow your business. So the ones I think that really have that figured out, end up with teams of people that are doing things that they used to do themselves, but they no longer have to do. And that gives you the autonomy to really, really grow your business.
Yeah, I did a video a while. It's been a couple months now, but I talk about that is, delegate what you hate. I think that's the thing too, is like, if you hate doing check calls and you're to the position where you're doing 10 loads a day as an agent, hire the person. You start on the track and trace, because you don't want to start and give them the sales, because that's what you're good at. And so you stay in that lane of just maximizing your time of that FaceTime with those customers, and bringing on new and servicing them. But delegate what you hate. If you're not good at it, you're probably not going to have the passion that somebody loves that. They love the follow up, and they love, the predictable nature of what they're going to do on any given day. Whereas you're an entrepreneur, really, as a freight agent, you like that spontaneity and you like the challenges. And so if you delegate that piece that you hate, it allows you to focus on building your business and your brand a lot more. So Great point.
You know, one thing we didn't add to our list, but I think is, I just thought about it, is boss brokers are very good at doing the same processes, procedures, and so forth, you know, over time, you know, repetitively, and handling the things like that. But the ones that I think really excel are the ones that when they see a solution or an opportunity that does help them improve their overall business, they're not afraid to make that change. Uh, Many people in our industry are really hesitant to make any changes. They're fearful of change, and it's due to a lot of things. And it's, some of it is real. Customers a lot of times don't like change. You know, carriers don't like change. Everybody likes just the status quo, keep things going the same way it has been. But you know, when you are not in the culture that fits you and fits your business and fits your desire to grow, then it is time to think about, you know, a change. And is it easy? No, no. Old dogs, new tricks, all that stuff, you know, not necessarily the easiest thing to do. But I can tell you from just recent experience with working with some old dogs and new tricks that they are as happy as can be that they actually went through that process. And so I think the boss brokers know when to say, I need to change.
Yeah.
I think that's my takeaway on that.
Well, and I think that's a great point. I know you're kind of alluding to the agent that we just brought on in November, which you've known a long time and was kind of in a place where maybe a little burnout because of the red tape that they were dealing with, and just the inability to get things done. And now they're with us, and they're like, their numbers have increased dramatically just in a short amount of time because they're excited to go to work, and they're motivated because we're working with them to build their business versus just saying, no, that doesn't work, or we need this, or whatever it is. You know, we're really helping, you know, find that way to yes and bring that business in the door versus telling them why they can't do it or why it's going to take time. You know, so it's important. You know, nobody wants to go to work and be demotivated, right? Are you going to do your best work if you're demotivated? No. But if you're motivated, then it doesn't feel like work. You know, we all have those hobbies that we're passionate about, and we can spend all day talking about them or doing them. You know, and if you truly enjoy working and making a good living, you know, work can fall into that too if you're aligned with the right people. So, you know, I challenge anybody that's listening to this, if you know, give Chad a call. His email's right there on the screen. Set up a time. You know, I'm everywhere on socials. You can reach out to me. You know, just have a conversation because you never, maybe today's not the day, but maybe in 6 months something happens and you need a new home. That's the worst thing that we've seen, right, Chad? Where somebody like all of a sudden they have to make a change because something's happened. Their customers are getting stolen. You know, their credit's getting squashed. I mean, what are some of the examples that you've seen as well in that regard?
Yeah. So what I would say, and I just let people know that you should always have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Everybody should have
Unless
a
they work for us
solution.
because they don't need one.
Exactly. But everybody, you know, there's no guarantees in life. There's absolutely no guarantees. If you're an employee and you've been doing this forever, I don't know how many companies I've seen this year go out of business. You know, it's like all of a sudden you say, hey, I got this company meeting. You guys all need to be there, and you're gone. You're done. So your guarantees are just not there. So always have that backup plan, you know, in your head as to what you can do, and always keep your options open as to where you can work and what you can do moving forward. Avoid trying to sign up for long-term agreements that prevent you from doing what you do best and working with the customers that you have. But if you're in one of those situations, start developing a plan to get out of that so you can actually, you know, control your own destiny.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, in our space, a lot of people, like Kel said, they wait until something bad happens But those same people have been worried about that something bad happening for years.
Yeah.
So make sure you are proactively doing something to make your transition when something bad does happen, a possibility. And I talk to people all the time, and I may talk to them, 6 months ago or a year ago, and all of a sudden I hear from them, and it's like, hey, I've thought about it again, and I'd like to go.
Yeah.
And so it's, nothing has to happen overnight. It's not doesn't hurt to evaluate your opportunities and and see if you can find a place where you would feel more comfortable. And maybe it doesn't happen right away, but maybe it happens 3 months or 6 months or a year down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's going to continue to be more fallout in the next, before everybody's talking about a rebound, and yeah, maybe we're seeing some better stuff. But if you think about the lagging factor of like cash and people making a profit, if they're hurting just because the numbers of shipments start to improve today, that actually eats up more cash. And so, if they have a big bump in sales, do they have the cash to manage that? Do they have the line of credit if needed? Because, if you go out and get $1 million worth of new business and you pay your carriers before you get paid, you have to be in a great place for cash. And a lot of companies, that's why they never grow, because they can't extend that credit. We're lucky enough, we've been in business 20 plus years. We have no debt on the company. As a brokerage, you really shouldn't, in my opinion, because you don't have assets, but some people do. They leverage a big building, or they funnel their personal life. We don't do any of that. Our business is our business, and if somebody's a shareholder, their stuff is outside of that. So we're in a position, if we have a new, let's just talk about some new agents that we're talking to and that we're adding on. We've probably extended $1 million worth of credit in the last 30 days. That's brand new business, and it's great business. But if we weren't in that position, we wouldn't be attracting boss brokers, because they would quickly see that we would not be able to give them the credit limit. So do your due diligence if you're reaching out to people, and what kind of financial shape are they in? What kind of credit limits and terms do they have? Because they're like, well, we need to be prepaid on everything. Well, that's easy but no customer wants to do that. They're not going to extend you $500,000 up front when they can have somebody else that's going to give them terms. They're just not going to do it, right? So it's super important to understand that.
Yeah, everybody's got the customer they're working with, and they have the situations they have to handle on a daily basis. But if you're constantly frustrated by some process in that you're having to deal with within your own company, the company you're at now, you think about what's that process. Ask that question when you're talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
How would you handle this situation? And you're going to find all different types of ways that things can be handled, and finding the fit that works best for you. If that reduces your stress on a daily basis, what's that worth?
Yeah.
Money's one thing, bottom line is another thing, but day-to-day stress, it makes this thing right here in your chest, not healthy. So the more you can be, stress-free and just handle your day-to-day, the more fun you have, the less stressed you are. It's just healthier for you.
Yeah. One of the things I want to hit on too, when you're talking about that, is, there's no non-competes. Your business is your business. Our contract even states that you can be non-exclusive. The reason we do that is because, some people have a really amazing LTL program, but they need a truckload program. Now, LTL is something we're working towards. But, if you're out there and you have somebody that's been doing it for 20 years, they're going to have a better program than us on the LTL. But that's something we're working towards. So, just having that freedom to say, what, they must be confident in the service they provide and the value that they provide, that they're not going to bind me with a contract that scares me into not leaving or not doing certain things. Maybe that makes it where some people don't come to us because they're like, well, what's the catch? There is no catch. We just feel like doing business with good people is important. Having those good working relationships. We don't want to be bound by a piece of paper in order to stay in a relationship that maybe doesn't fit all of us. So
yeah, I say that all the time, Cal. It's you're here as an agent for B2B because it's working for you.
Yeah.
And you're getting accomplished what you want to get accomplished. And no piece of paper, agreement, whatever, is going to keep you here. You're here because you want to be here. And if you don't want to be here, then go find some place that works for you, because, it goes both ways. People that are happy where they're at are easy to work with.
Yeah.
People that are unhappy where they're at are usually very difficult to work with. So when we have that culture of everybody getting done what they need to get done, it just makes it a lot more enjoyable for everybody, and it's more efficient and more profitable for everyone. The other thing I think, on the just the whole commissions and when do you get paid and all that stuff, a lot of people ask that. At B2B, one of the things I think is really, I think sometimes it's too simple. It's like we say everything's included in the commission. And I'm like, well, what do I pay for my TMS? Or what do I pay for posting services? All this stuff. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't pay for any of that. So it's real simple. You make a percentage of the commission of the net revenue on your transactions. And so that's one of the things, we look for, boss brokers, because we're paying for our cost with the money that we're making in that margin. So without any business, we don't make any money, but we still have costs. So we always are looking for people who have, a book of business that they can bring through the door that first day.
Yeah. Yeah. So no tech fees, the commission's the commission. We've seen a lot where people are getting $500, $1,000 or a percentage of their book for those tech fees. And a lot of times it's not a number that's consistent. So they're like, well, how do I budget my business if I don't know what that number is going to be? Yep. You pay this amount of dollars for a truck stop in DAT and TMS, which is zero. Carrier 411, my carrier portal for onboarding, or my carrier packet, depending on what you call it. All that is included. And, we're here to make it as streamlined as possible. Another thing that's huge is you get paid every Friday for the previous week's deliveries. So if you're an agent, let's say you go somewhere and you're getting paid on maybe invoice or maybe even on collected. Well, depending on how good your back office is, they might not be aligned with getting that money through the door as quickly as you want to, because that's the bulk of your revenue. So, so let's say you deliver a load last Friday, you're getting paid this Friday on it. I mean, it's pretty simple. We're going to make sure that they're creditworthy on the front end. We're going to make sure the carrier's good on the front end. We're going to do all that stuff on the front end, not on the back end, so that you can focus on moving freight and, putting money to the bottom line, because that's how we all make money. So we're aligning our goals with your goal as a boss broker. And, if you think about, I always use the example in one of my offices in the past, I actually had a picture of a rowing, like a crew, for rowing. And I just talk about, when you're in that kind of a sport, you have to have such a cadence that you're in lockstep with each other, right? Because you're hitting the water at the same time, the oars, right? And if somebody's, I always call it just being an asshole and sticks their oar in the water just to do it, that messes up the whole team. We don't have that. We're looking at, how do we build that cadence? How do we make sure that, we're all aligned? Because that's the goal, really.
Yeah. So Kel, maybe we should talk a little bit about kind of the onboarding process for people, kind of what that looks like. Does that sound like a good transition?
Yeah, go ahead. I think my dog's going to bark, so I'm having my wife grab it.
Oh, so, a lot of times we talked a little bit about at the very beginning, people have a list of customers that they want to work. And, when we do our onboarding analysis and discussions, we will sign an NDA that protects that information for you. And we will look at those customers. We will make sure that they, are customers that no one else in our system is working. Because in our platform, we don't let two agents, or two different offices work on the same business. If it's a ordering customer, obviously if you have some of these customers where there's one billing location and a whole bunch of ordering locations, then that's a little bit different. We let those be worked by different people. But every time we look at those customers, you're going to have when you do an onboarding, you're going to know 100% whether that is your customer. You can work with it. You're also going to know what we feel is a soft credit check look on that. We don't do a full credit check until we get the credit apps and so forth, but we will do a soft check. So you're going to know, up front, this customer is good to go, and we have this much credit that I can work. And that's going to be your starting point as onboarding. We also, as we get closer to an onboarding, we often get a list of the carriers that the agents want to use and have used repetitively. We verify that those are all set up in our system ahead of time, and that they're able to be used right away. The TMS, we log in with you. We make sure your local system's all set up and you can actually do all the feature functions. Everything looks the same. We walk you through how to do those processes in a test system where you can play as much as you want to play until you're comfortable and enter some loads and ask some questions about, how do I do this? Maybe it's a multi-pick, multi-drop. Maybe I have to have, these notes to get added to the invoices, or et cetera, et cetera. All of those things can be figured out ahead of time so that when the day you want to really get started, you're able to hit the ground running and know exactly what you're doing and not be kind of, how do I do this in the TMS?
Yeah.
But if you do have that situation, we also have the agent support team where people will be on a email thread where they can respond to you in a moment's notice, get on, do a Teams call with you, kind of show you how to do the process, maybe send you a PDF of how the process is supposed to be done. All of those things are done, to help you have the easiest change that is possible, so that the old dog can learn the new tricks. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's easy to make changes across the board for everybody, because change is hard. Let's just be honest. But we try to make it as easy as possible, and we get a lot of the stuff out of the way up front, so that when you're actually in the driver's seat having to do the job, you're not at that point trying to set up a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. Well, and I think one thing to add throughout that whole thing that is kind of a underlying or recurring theme is accessibility to help, whether it's you or credit or carriers or myself, if needed, in certain situations. We're accessible. It doesn't mean we want to work all weekend just to work all weekend when it can be taken care of. But if it's something that needs to be taken care of on a weekend and it's holding something up, we're going to do it.
We just had that last weekend, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, just let's keep the ball rolling. Let's not just say, I'm sitting on the couch watching football and I don't want to deal with that. Well, maybe that person, has 10 shipments that they need to ship out Monday and they need whatever it is that they're asking for. And it just came up and the customer reached out to them on a Saturday. This business, trucks are moving up and down the road 24/7. Even coming Thursday and Friday this week, we actually have, some workers that work with us from Columbia. So they're going to be working Thursday and Friday. So we have that coverage if needed, plain and simple. It's just important. Yeah.
What I would say on that coverage, a lot of people say, well, I cover you on the weekends. And what that means is you send an email and an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours later, you're like, well, where's my answer? then you got this number you can call and say, hey, did somebody get this?
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case here at B2B. You send an email to the after hours call number, or you call that number, you're going to get somebody that's going to answer you in a reasonable time frame. Can you do everything on the weekends that you can do during the week? No, but nobody in our business can get everything done on the weekend. But we will have somebody there to answer your questions and try to get your solution for you.
Yeah, exactly. So we're cutting in the top of the hour, but I'll just leave people with, this is one of the hats that I put together is, why not you? Why not now? And I share that all the time. So it's like, if you're thinking about a change, and you're scared, just reach out. If you're a boss broker, you have something to bring to the table. Let's have a conversation and let's figure out how to, make it where, B2B is a fit for you. Because I think that's important. If you're going to make that change, you have to do the research, make sure they're aligned, talk to other agents as well. We have that accessibility. If you're wanting to know what the true experience is, talk to some of our agents. We're not hiding them.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. We give them to you. Does everybody do that? I don't know. I'm guessing that not everybody does it, because I know, like, when I'm trying to get on with certain vendors and I ask for referrals or recommendations, they say, well, we protect our customers, privacy. Well, if they were really a great customer, wouldn't they want to tell me about your product? So that's immediate red flag for me. So
yeah, I for sure have agents that have signed up this year that are really willing and helpful and want to talk to new people. So happy to offer that, as an opportunity. Uh, it's when you find something that works, you're kind of excited about it, and you kind of want to tell other people about it. And I think that's important. What I say to a lot of people is, why do you want to do what you do for less than you are today? Why do you want to be less effective than you could be? Because less effective means less money, less bottom line, or less, quality of life, or all of this stuff. It's like, why not try to do something as efficiently and effective as you can, make the most money in the least amount of time and the least amount of effort. I think in our business, it's there's a lot of work. There's a lot of things that have to happen to be successful, and try to minimize that stuff.
Yep, exactly. Cool. Well, we're coming up on an hour. Anything else that you'd add that we haven't covered?
B2B, obviously we talked about it at the beginning, 20 years plus in the business. We didn't start just supporting agents right out of the gate. It's like, how do you make this work? Learned a lot of things. I wasn't here for the very beginning of B2B, but I know how it works in the company I was in when we were figuring out how to do everything, figuring out how to build technology solutions and so forth. And, Kel and I just talked about the technology, and, everybody's got technology today. There's probably, I don't even know how many vendors out there today. They all have the best thing since sliced bread, and everybody thinks, oh, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do that. But in the end, our business is really pretty simple. Truckload brokerage, you do the same things. It's really the service, it's the support, it's doing what you say you're going to do. Sure, we have the tools that enable you to do what you want to do and do what you need to do. But I think we're good at picking the tools that are effective, but not just adding every tool in the book under the every tool there is out there, because you get too complicated, you get too much stuff out there.
Yeah.
And so I think keeping it simple goes a long way in our business. And I have heard that, from a number of the new agents. It's like, oh, that's it? I'm done? Yes. It's not really that.
You want to keep it easy. Yeah, great point. So yeah, 24 is ending, 25 is going to be here. Everybody's talking about the rebound, so I put yourself and align yourself, especially if your business is going to grow. and you're leaving money on the table because of tech fees or the margin split, make that change now, in December, as because next week's December, and be ready in January to hit the ground running and make 25 a great year. So that's my challenge to you guys. If you're truly a boss broker, you need to be looking at different situations and different solutions to drive your business forward. And we're here for that. So
yeah, I've been very busy this month talking to a lot of people because I think people do utilize this time of year where things are, a little bit slower in the brokerage space, to really do some evaluations of what they could do. Happy to talk to as many people as possible. I mean, we said a lot of the stuff on this call that, I would say on a call with anyone. So if you know of someone, don't hesitate to send this video off to them, and I think they would get a little bit better idea as to who we are.
Yep. Easy peasy. So cool. Well, appreciate everybody joining. Stay tuned. Hit us up. You know how to get us on the socials, website, LinkedIn, YouTube. Give us a follow if you haven't already. So appreciate everybody tuning in. And until next time, have a great